Hello, and welcome to Experience of the Soul, a weekly space to help you grow, prosper, and live more fully from your divine self. In this Ask RCA episode, spiritual teacher and author Cynthia Alice Anderson explores the difference between personality and soul, and how to discern God's will from your own self-will, not as theory, but as lived spiritual practice. We invite you to listen with an open heart. And now, Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm also the owner and founder of the channel. And my friends, I'm really proud that we just passed the 400 mark. And I just wanted to take a moment to give thanks for all of the guests, even my former producer who did such an amazing job, Dave Croft. I want to include Shannon in that. We've used so much of her music in the past. So many people have helped make it what it is, and so grateful for my producer who came on over 100 episodes ago now, Mr. Sean Kilgore. So, Sean, thank you for coming into the studio with us today once again.
Thank you so much. Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 402 of Experience of the Soul. We are continuing with our Ask RCA. We have some questions left that went unanswered, so we're going to get you those answers in today's episode. But before we do, it's time once again to explore a few meaningful moments that are on the calendar this week, starting this evening, Monday, March 2nd, and into Tuesday, March 3rd, is what's known as Purim, which is a joyful Jewish festival marking the survival of the Jewish people in ancient Persia. This is as told in the book of Esther. This is a celebration of courage, identity, and joy that is often observed with feasting, costumes, and shared laughter. Today, though, during the day is what's known as the Fast of Esther, which is usually observed before Purim as a time of reflection and preparation. So we honor our Jewish friends in that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. I like it.
Yeah. This Wednesday, March 4th, is what's known as Holi, which is one of the most vibrant Hindu festivals. I've looked at some pictures of this while I was reading about it, and it looks amazing. So
yeah, it looks phenomenal.
This is celebrated as the Festival of Colors. It welcomes the arrival of spring and the triumph of good over evil, using colors, music, and play. Spiritually, this is inviting us to release old barriers and embrace joy and unity in diversity.
Sounds like the halftime show.
It does, doesn't it?
Even though it was weeks ago now, it's still on my mind.
Still watching clips and stuff. It was so great.
That's going to be talked about
for a long time.
To this day. I'm wondering the upset over that. I'm clearly in a different place, but I thought it was phenomenal.
I did too.
Honoring of history, family. I mean,
I think it's bizarre that there was an alternative that was offered by.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about? Like how they did like a different
Turning Point. Yeah.
Yeah, by Turning Point, and they had Kid Rock, who like maybe some of the most controversial lyrics. Ever. You know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So really. But but a beautiful show by Bad Bunny.
It was just a celebration of color, of culture.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I mean, it was
American. I mean,
it was very American.
Yes, it couldn't be more American, which I thought was funny.
America is a country of immigrants. I mean,
right. Yeah. And it was hysterical that Turning Point was calling theirs an all-American halftime show. Like, if you don't think that what happened was American, then
I know.
Yeah, there's just no.
Well, you know what? They can all be American because they are. It's
right.
like, it doesn't even have to be Kid Rock is an American. It's just like, yeah, he's American, and so is Bad Bunny. So can we move on? What's the controversy?
Yeah, big time, big time.
Yeah, but anyway, what reminded me of it was all the color, because I loved all the color. I loved honoring all the countries. The dancing was so beautiful. Yeah.
It was great. And Ricky Martin and Lady Gaga. I mean, so good, so good.
Yeah.
So this Friday, March 6th, is what's known as World Day of Prayer. So this is a global shared observance where people from many Christian traditions unite in prayer for the first Friday of March. This is a moment to lift up the concerns of the world together, exactly what we were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
Let's try to get back to a place of peace and healing and solidarity. This is meant to transcend denominational lines. And it would be great if it, denominational and cultural, let's get past all of these, lines of division that we've put up,
Mm-hmm.
that people seem to,
Well,
you know,
Well, and Sean, you may have seen this, but I've always been really interested in the astronauts, perspective as they've left planet Earth and gone into space. And so many of the interviews over and over and over, the astronauts say there were no lines, the fragility of it all, and that we are all one planet. Has been a life changing for them, even though they knew it in their mind. The experience of seeing the Earth suspended there in space, seeing there are no lines separating countries, there's no color, there's one planet. That anyway, it's been on my mind lately because I was just studying how Buzz Aldrin took the unity prayer, the prayer for protection, to the moon on the moon landing. But yeah, they were forever changed because of realizing our oneness on a deeper level. So it's really where the higher thinking is. So that's really obvious.
Yeah. This Tuesday, March 3rd through Thursday, March 5th. And the dates vary here. I found a couple of different versions. I don't know if that's just by location that the dates vary, but it's what's known as Hola Mo'ala. This is a Sikh festival that celebrates courage, service, and community that's traditionally marked, again, not unlike the previous festival we talked about, music, poetry, martial arts, which I thought was interesting, and shared meals. Spiritually, this is honoring the strength it takes to live with integrity, reminding us that faith is not only contemplative, but it's also active.
Beautiful. I didn't know that one. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. But I always love the Sikhs.
Yeah, so. Totally. Yeah. And then we move into our Just for Fun. So this is Sunday, March 8th, is International Women's Day. So this is a global observance honoring the achievements, resilience, and contributions of women across cultures and generations. While often associated with advocacy and awareness, it can also be held spiritually as a moment to honor wisdom, compassion, leadership, and the many ways that strength shows up in human form. So I honor you on this Sunday, International Women's Day.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Friends, something to think about as we head into today's episode. This week, where are you called to let go of old stories and step forward with new light and, as always, with kindness?
Beautiful.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say, with that, let's jump into these questions because we want to try to get to these last couple that we have here today. So we start with, what is the difference between the ego or personality and our soul?
Yes. What is the difference between personality and soul? This is probably my most asked question. And I've also had somebody recently ask, where is this in the Bible? All right. So in the Bible, there is a verse about how we are to love God with our heart, mind, soul, and strength. And then it goes on to say, and our neighbor as ourselves. So I'm going to have Sean read that in a moment. But in the biblical times, there wasn't such a word as personality. But interestingly, I had a good friend who grew up Jewish who became a unity minister. And he was explaining a story of the Bible. It's where Isaac was going to sacrifice his son. I don't know if any of you know that scripture, but or wait, hold on, Sean, let me look that up.
You're good.
Or was the son Isaac? Hold on. Old Testament sacrificing of son. Abraham. Yes, that's right. Okay, sorry.
You're good.
I'll click. There is a place in the Bible where Abraham was going to sacrifice his son Isaac. And this friend of mine I knew from ministerial school always had a hard time with that, because he would say, how could God have told Abraham to sacrifice his own son. Like, this just doesn't seem right. Anyway, through years of research, he finally realized that the voice that Abraham was hearing was not the voice of God, right? That's how it reads in the translation. But when you go to the original Hebrew text, it's what he thought he was supposed to do. In other words, from the mind, but not really from the voice of God. And we know that because of how it was noted in the sacred ancient text in Hebrew. So I'm saying all this to say, just because the word personality is not in the Bible, we can infer by stories, by understanding, and by modern day scholarship that there is, in fact, a difference from what we learn in behavior and our sacred soul. And so the difference between personality and soul is that the personality is created as we grow and develop and how we're raised in our home. It impacts us with how we learn to receive love. It impacts us in terms of our behavior. It even impacts us because of certain ways, traumas that we may experience. So our personality is formed through how we were raised. And that personality, and psychology will tell us this, it's basically between the ages of 0 to 5. In other words, birth to 5 years old is where most of the personality gets set. And then we talked about this just the other day. And then that's kind of how we live the rest of our lives with these personality traits. And we all have tendencies certain way. We all have a soul journey, yes. So some of us come in with certain tendencies. For instance, we all know people who are naturally quiet. Well, that's a tendency. But often that's reinforced by how a person is raised. So they might soul-wise come in with a quiet soul. And then whatever's going on with the home may reinforce that. So the personality and the soul do interact, but they are two distinct, different, but connected parts. so it's like you've often heard it said, we're spirit, soul, and body. The body houses the soul. And of course, we often think of the mind, right, when we say body. So the Bible says, Sean, go ahead and read that scripture for us, the one from Mark 12.
Yes. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these.
Beautiful. I wanted to go ahead and put that second verse on there. Seems like many modern day Christians have forgotten that second part, but I want to especially talk about the first part today. I love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. In other words, even the Bible breaks it down into different aspects: heart, soul, mind, strength. So strength is the physical body. Heart is kind of like, how are we doing that, right? And then soul and mind. And so the way what's helped me think about it is teachings of the East, that we often learn that personality or that ego self is very, very limited because it's rooted in the mind. So the mind thinks thoughts. That's its job. And it's great that the mind thinks thoughts because it helps us do things like balance our checkbook. It helps us know not to walk out in traffic because we know if we do, something bad will happen. So the mind is very, very helpful. But interestingly, when it comes to spiritual things, it's very, very limited. So we tend to associate the personality and the mind interchangeably because the personality is rooted in trying to survive, trying to get love. In other words, the personality was formed by how you were loved or not loved as you grew up in your family. So the personality is rooted in limits. It's not rooted in unconditional love the way our soul is. So the personality is created by how we were raised. It's created even by the culture we grow up in. It's even created by our birth order as well. You know, I will tell you personally, I grew up in a really large family, and there were 9 total. 7 of us made it to adulthood. 2 babies died very young. So we are all very different personality wise. And we also have a lot of similarities because we grew up in the same home. But interestingly, our soul journeys have been very different. So, we all laugh a lot. We all love each other. We all love to cook. We all love to eat. Like, those are kind of personality third dimension things. We all go to church except for one, and even he'll go at the holidays if need be to take a family member or something. So those are all personality things. One of my siblings is a Baptist and has a very beautiful relationship with Jesus. Another is Lutheran and more about the liturgy, and one is Methodist, more service to others and things like that. So our soul journey has been slightly different, even though we all grew up basically going to the same church with the same parents. And so, this idea that our personality is formed in the home, how we were raised, but the ego, and that we often equate that with the ego, the personality, ego, and mind are kind of all interchangeable. But the soul is something grander. The soul is what we came into this life with and what we will leave this life with. And they interact in that our soul includes our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our ideas, but it also includes the spirit. And the spirit of us is never changing, right? So the personality is changeable, but the spirit of us never changes. Our soul can grow and expand, but there's even a part of us that is changeless because it is literally the Spirit of God alive in us. There's an old Unity book called What Are You? And Sean, I'd love to put that in the show notes. It's called What Absolutely. Are You? This is a really old copy that I have. And the author's name is Imelda Shanklin, Imelda, Imelda Shanklin. And she has a great way of saying it. She says the personality or the personal is the who of you, and the spirit is the what. And I like that. She says the spirit of you is changeless. The good news is the personal, the who, can be changed, which is great because as we learn and grow and develop, we want to let go of the personality and let more of that spirit and soul of us come forward. So our goal on the channel, you'll often hear us say, we're here to help you grow, prosper, and evolve, or grow, prosper, and learn to unconditionally love. Our goal in our own lives and in all of the programs we bring on the show, it is to help you release more of the personality and live more from soul. The soul of you contains the very Spirit of God. And yes, it includes the past as well. But the beautiful thing is that the soul has an option to choose to grow and develop. And the more we grow and develop into the soul, the more we love God from the heart and soul of us, the less we need the personality self. Because you see, the personality being rooted in limits and trying to get love, there's never enough for the personality. The personality is always grasping. The soul of us can be still and know that I am God, as the scriptures say. Be still and know. Be still and know. That is the soul of you. So I want you to think about just your life, just your very own life, and think about, gosh, the way I was raised, what did I learn? Well, I learned if I did one thing and my parents were happy, maybe I should do more of that. And if I did one thing and they were sad, maybe I should do less. This is how the personality gets formed. This is how the personality gets formed. What's beautiful is that as you grow and develop spiritually, the soul starts to inform the personality. I'll give you a personal example. So when I grew up, I was the youngest, and it was interesting because my partner and I were recently at a family event, and she said to me, "It's really wonderful to see you move into your sibling role." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You are so the youngest, being a goofball, making everybody laugh." I said, "Well, that was certainly my role in the family." And the interesting part is in my work, my being able to laugh both at myself and about life itself has helped me be able to connect with a lot of different kinds of people. So the soul of me is using the personality pieces to help me get my message across. People often tell me, "I love your message because you make me laugh and then you zing me with the spiritual truth." One time somebody told me I was a spiritual Ellen, which I don't know. Lately, Ellen's getting bad press. So, right.
That's hysterical, though.
Yeah. Or somebody else told me I was a funny Joyce Meyer, who's so serious all the time. So, uh, that's how my personality and my soul work together, which is a lot of fun, I think. So, as we're going down life's path, we're seeking to live from soul, which means we're asking the question, how do I live God's will in my life? And that takes us to the final question we're going to talk about today. And in the Q&A, this is the final question.
Yeah, which actually these kind of like that leads beautifully into this.
It does.
Can you explain the feeling? And I love that word, that word is in this question, because it is a lot about the feeling. Can you explain the feeling difference between God's will and my own self will?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, even Jesus had a hard time with this one. So this lets me know it is an extremely difficult and important question to ask. For me, self-will, in other words, when I'm pushing things forward, it does feel a bit like a push. Like inside, there is, I'm making something happen. Like this has to happen. There's constraint. There is sometimes anxiety around it. There is sometimes a force energy that I feel. But if I'm in God's will, there's a sense of peace. Like there's a sense of surrender. And there's a sense of trust. You know what? I'm guided to do this. I don't know what's next, but I know in my heart this is mine to do. So for me, there's a sense of relief and release.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings me a lot of peace when I know to the very best of my ability, I am doing God's will. And this podcast is a great example of that. We keep showing up, and I ask God every year, sometimes a couple times a year, God, am I to do this? Boom, a donation shows up. I say, okay, that's the answer from the universe because it has to be sustained. Okay, God, do I continue this? And then I get to a question that somebody sends, or somebody says to me, you saved my life in COVID. I listened to a show all day, every day. I kept you on repeat. And that's a sign from the universe. You see? So I ask the question, the universe can bring the answer. So I want to encourage you to be in dialogue with this. Also knowing the difference within yourself between your, what I love to call holy desires or high desires, and just low vibing, this is what I want. So it is a walk and a journey of faith as we learn to differentiate this. And I think the words of the master are good on this. Sean, will you read this? And I think we chose a New International Version. This is from Luke, right?
Yes. Yeah. Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done.
Beautiful. Father, if you're willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. In other words, even Jesus said, this seems too hard. So often, if not always, you know it's God when it feels too big just for you to accomplish. You know, I'll never forget when I was about 15. I think I was 14 when I heard about it, but did the trip in 15 when I heard that our school was going to go to Brazil, or a small team of students was going to go to Brazil, and we were going to help a missionary there by bringing people to church, by performing musically, and by sharing our testimony. And I remember when I heard that, and I thought, I want to do that. And I thought, how am I going to have the money? I said, well, my parents support this. You know, nobody in my family's done this. You know, my personality had all kind of questions. So I told my mom about it. She said, I think that's a great idea. I said, you do? She said, let's just pray on it. Well, she said, would you like to come talk to the United Methodist Women about what you want to do? It was a group my mom was a part of, and I didn't know, but the United Methodist Women would support people doing mission work around the world. And in the United Methodist Church, also United Methodist Commission on Relief was very, very big at that time. We were always doing a lot of help and outreach, even though we ourselves did not have a lot. You know, we had the basics, and we always knew to help others. It was a big way I was raised. So I went and talked to the United Methodist Women, and they agreed to give me a certain amount of finances. My dad said, why don't we invite our friend, the doctor, over and for dinner, and you tell him what you're doing. I think he'd be interested. And so we invited Dr. Strickland over, and he said, I'd like to help you a little bit. And he said, not only that, would you like to borrow one of my lenses to take really good pictures? He said, and I'll let you take it if you give me and support you if you give me a slideshow after. I said, well, I'd love to do that for everybody, you know, that supports me. So anyway, my friends, I got the divine idea. I moved forward, and support was there for it. And it was one of the most meaningful experiences of my life, to travel to a different country, to be alone in the middle of nowhere with a small group of individuals helping others. There were no cell phones then, so I called back home on a ham radio, and wow, it was God's will for me. So God's will and following God's will can feel a bit like you're sitting on the edge of your seat and you don't know what's going to happen next. That said, it's an exciting ride, and it's full of ups and downs, but is well worth the experience. So God's will is often, if not always, a very big call, because it calls you into more of your higher self to express. It's going to call you, or cause you rather, praying for God's will is going to cause you to ask, God, what is your highest will for me? How can I move forward to manifest this in the world? It's going to cause you to be an innovator. It's going to cause you to think a different way. And it is a magical when the support comes forward. And I feel like, my friends, as I'm talking about all this, it's one of the reasons I'm so grateful to still be doing the podcast after this long. It says to me, this is God's will for me, and this is God's will that I continue. So look for signs, ask for guidance, and say, you know what? Sometimes you say, God, I don't even want to do this, but please do this through me. Not my will, thy will be done. The personal will, I want to reiterate this, the personal will, so often, so limited, and just about getting and having. God's will is about bringing you into a new way of being, helping you grow into the next version of yourself that you were destined to be. Remember, as you seek God's will for me is good. God's will for me is good. That would be a great affirmation for you as you seek God's guidance for your life and world. God's will for me is good. God, show me your guidance for me as I move forward in faith to do what is mine to do. God's will for me is good. I move forward in with great faith to do what is mine to do. So, my friends, this is my hope for you, that you're going to live more from soul than the personality and ego, that you are going to seek to live God's will in your life and in the world, releasing this idea of self-will, because we want to give that over to God and let God lead the way. God's love for you knows no end and will lead you into your next version of yourself that is greater and grander, I promise, than you could have ever imagined on your own. So, my friends, we thank you. We bless you. Thank you for all the great questions we've been able to do over the last few weeks. We have some wonderful guests coming up, good friends and colleagues over the next couple of months. So happy to bring back Mary Delaney, and also super happy to have Lorna Evans with us too in April. So we have some great folks coming up. Happy to have you along the journey with us. And as always, my friends, thank you for your loving support. We are grateful to receive it and honored to support your journey. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Blessings on the journey.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson. This show is made possible by listeners like you, and your support helps keep these conversations available to all. If this podcast has supported you, you're invited to share it with someone you love or support the show at cynthiaaliceanderson.com/donate. Produced by Kilgore Creative and a production of the Soulworks Group Incorporated. We are so grateful for you, and we are holding you in prayer for God's highest and best in your life. Blessings on the journey. You're listening to the Experience of the Soul podcast channel, bringing you inspiration, teachings, and practices to support your spiritual journey.